locally, who later I found out were sabotaging, lying, doing everything you could imagine, and it was I mean, it had to be professionally being done, and you're just like, my God, you people are everywhere.
Well, one case came up in Montreal recently. It was a top policeman. It was a policeman, but he was one of the three who had access to all the informers to do with what they call the local mafia in Montreal. It's not an Italian mafia, but it is a mafia. And he was going to turn over 2,000 informant spies in Montreal alone to the mafia. 2,000. And I've told people for years, you don't realize that since the 50s, they've had these people placed in...
It's now admitted, the cable person, the phone person, the everyone, and I've noticed this, usually they end up being a listener, but a lot of times you can just tell when the person doesn't know whose house they're at and I get home late or whatever, and I mean, you can just see whoever's in your house, they're casing it, they're looking at things. You can see it's a power trip that they're watching you. And it's on record they are, but I mean, you know, nurses at hospitals, everywhere. They get off on the little informerness, and they get little cuts of juicy, too. They get a little money. That's right, or a bit of promotion at work or something. But as I say, this technique is very old, and it works very, very well. They know how to bring countries down. They did it with East Germany, too. They've had so much experience, and everything's documented. It's like a massive laboratory when they do these experiments. Well, no, Disney World, I was reading, now calls its parks a laboratory, and it turns out they taught the Department of Defense how to lock a city down. Because think about it. You're getting in, you're being scanned, you're being controlled, you're being surveilled. Disney systems are the model of actual what'll be gulags. Yes, and they had the wristbands too, with the chips in them to get inside. And biometric scanning, and you're under laboratory scanning. Let's go to a phone call. James in Minnesota, then Tara, JD, Noah, and CJ. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Do you hear me? Yeah, I wanted to talk about and of course I want to say what a pleasure it is to be on with you. I wanted to talk about a misunderstood subject, which is the separation of powers doctrine, the 10th Article and Amendments. And what I see is that prior to 39, it was unlawful for the federal government to come in and tax the state employees. And likewise, it was unlawful for the federal government to tax the state employees. Yeah, the income tax wasn't even really used until 51. It doesn't run the country. It's all paid to the private offshore banks. Do you have a question for Ellen Watt? Well, this gets into the matter of visitation, okay? And the fact of the matter is that when they passed the Public Salaries Tax Act, that provided for agreements where in any state that entered into an agreement with the federal government could now tax their state employees, and likewise, the states could then tax the federal employees, and it was constitutional because it only applied to the government employees. That's right. Listen, I got to jump here because we just got limited time with our guest for was there questions for Ellen Watt, getting into technical vagaries. Bottom line, the feds are completely criminal, out of control, federalizing everything. I mean, they're really coming out in the open, Alan. Well, they don't care about Constitution or laws. The power is law. That's it. Yeah. Let's talk to CJ in Michigan. You're on the air, CJ.
Hey, Alex. Hey, Alan. Calling from the prison state of Michigan. I want to ask your guests. I've heard you talk about, Alex, about the hope and not giving up. I definitely want to tell you that I am not. I'm very optimistic. Prophet Muhammad said, if you see the end of the world coming and you have a sapling to plant it, that means keep going to the end. But I talk to people and I get kind of, everyone's so like I don't know, fluoride head or whatever, but it's hard to be optimistic. Can you point us to some hope?
Alan?
Hope comes from each individual that understands what's happening. The problems occur where you join groups that are pre-made for you to join. Or they're infiltrated immediately and that you spun off into another diversion. Individuality can do so much, like that guy who refused to go to the White House, the sports player. He is an individual he stood up and he said that I speak as an individual. The government is out of control. I will not attend this function. Individuals count.
Stay there. That's right. Individuals count. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know?
Radio Network. I fell
Okay, the official radio show will be over in 5 minutes. Well, this hour will be. And then I'll be back tonight, 7 o'clock. Look, the caller asked a very, very serious question, but I'll do a little bit of overdrive to finish these callers with Alan Watt. You know, the caller asked, how do we have hope? Look, you're in this situation, and so even though it's overwhelming and scientific and been very well calculated, you now know about it. And so I think the most important thing is to fully wake up out of the trance that we have been inserted in a planned economy, a more and more planned habitat. They're trying to force us into artificial habitats, controlled compact cities. I live in the country. Alan lives in the country. That's the first instinct. And to try to get to know locals who you can trust, to work together, to move forward, and expose to people that it's beyond what you can even imagine when you first realize it, and how cold-blooded it is. And I think the fact that the system's so over the top, they're able to hide in plain view, but that can also boomerang back against them. Alan Watt.
Yeah, I mean, they've infiltrated right down to the local county level. There's organizations, I've mentioned them on the air too, where they graft themselves onto your local council. They just turn up and graft themselves on, claiming they're environmentalists, and no one votes them in. They're just there. Next thing you know, they're writing the laws on what you can do on your land.
And they've got the money of the globalist, and they are basically the Red Terror, Vanguard investigation agents.
Oh, yes. And many of them are actually retired, early retirement bureaucrats. This is where they go. They're given jobs and full salaries, and settle yourself down in a village here or a town there and start up a little NGO.
We've had that happen everywhere. It's always a retired colonel or a retired bureaucrat, and they literally are spying and harassing everyone. And then everybody kisses their hind end. Oh, leave us alone. We'll put you in power, and then they take over. They're parasite scum.
Yes, that's right. And so we've got to know who they are. Their names are out there. Their organizations are out there. But we're also into this age of technocracy. You understand, the Council on Foreign Relations, as I say, the big branch that helps run the world, they said that they would build a structure around everybody's constitution, which they have. They bypassed it all and overlapped it.
Yeah, they build these bureaucracies and then sign the authority over to that incrementally.
Yes, and then the next step was to do international treaties, binding treaties that would bring them together.
Take the new Internet treaty. Couldn't get SOPA through, just make it a treaty.
Make it a treaty, and then, of course, they make supranational governmental bodies. Well, no person, no individual has had a vote on the creation of the G20, for instance.
Take the real Euro bureaucracy. They have a parliament, but it has no authority. The bureaucrats run it. Let's jam another call. JD in Texas, you're on the air with Alan Watt. Boom, he's gone. Tara in Virginia, you're on the air.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Alex. Hi, Alan.
Hi.
I wanted to say I'm officially awake December 24th, so I'm on a real big learning curve. And I really enjoy everything that you talk about, Alan. You're a great inspiration. I've got an off-topic comment from your Nomi Prince interview yesterday. You know the comment where she said that they're going to start focusing on South America? Mitt Romney was talking about that in a campaign speech yesterday in Florida. And it just blew my mind how on spot she was. And also, the Chris Hedges interview was awesome, and it goes a long way to try and bring progressives over to listening to what you've got to say and getting over the whole conspiracy theory thing. They have a hard time with that. Well,
it's a global corporate program, and it is a conspiracy. And when we expose them, they just say it's a theory. But there's no theory. It's just an open conspiracy.
It is open, yeah. It's open. It's taught in schools now that the world, they're told, youngsters are at the 5 years of age are told what kind of world they're going to grow up in. Interdependence.
Yeah, and then they got fake environmentalists to cover up the real environmental degradation. We're not saying environmentalists are bad, period. Thank you so much for your call. Great talking to you, Tara. Stay with us. Alan Watt's with us for another 5 minutes, then we get into all the other important news coming up. But I want to try to get to as many of these calls as we can right now. His website's cuttingthroughthematrix.com. Ours are prisonplanet.tv and infowars.com. I'll be doing a special transmission tonight, 7 o'clock Central. Let's go ahead and go to Noah in California. Noah, you're on the air.
Hello, Alex. I just want to say I love your show and your website. But I had a question. I was just wondering, what moment do you think it's going to take for everyone to be woken up?
Well, everyone will only wake up when literally government comes out to issue ration cards and beat you over the head if you complain. I mean, that's just, most folk are under a trance, you understand.
A literal trance, and then you'll be so herded into compact cities with the farms all shut down except for big agri, you won't be able to live without them. That's why Forbes said, why is there a war against lemonade stands? Why is there a war against people selling pecans? Because it's all getting shut down. Yeah. And I watch people in public places when cops are bugging their eyes out or security guards, the people get off on groveling and the cops get off on it. And it's just pathetic. Yeah. I mean, this isn't America. This isn't England. This isn't Europe. This isn't anywhere.
Yeah, and plus because we live in an era of electronic media, basically, and incredible amounts of entertainment, science fiction, so on. The general public, everything's a blur to them when they come home from night. They just sit there and
people all the time say, I like your show, but you got this from this movie. And I'm like, no, that movie is fictionalizing what's really happening, so you can't differentiate.
All else is showing you what the next step, so that it's familiar to you, and you go along with it just like the people. Yeah,
every science fiction movie I see now explains that you're not allowed to have children in the future without a special license.
Absolutely. There's so many like that, too. Either that or a virus comes along and sterilizes us all.
You know what, Alan? I meant to get into this with you, and it's so important. We're going to have you back up very soon. They're really hyping all these weaponized viruses they've got now that they're saying are just going to get out on accident.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll do it when it's necessary. Remember too, Rockefeller at the last Lucky Jeans Club meeting they had, he says, we've been doing this steady march for depopulation by abortions and sterilization. He says, but now we must go in and ramp it up, he says. We've got to create massive death.
Yeah, and by the way, I have the article I meant to get to today. London Times, billionaire club and bid to curb overpopulation, says they met in secret, David Rockefeller, Warren Buffett, and others, at the Rockefeller University to try with Bill Gates to figure out ways to reduce population faster. Did you know the London Times, you can't find this, they pulled it.
Yeah.
They don't want you knowing, because we're supposed to be told Bill Gates wants to help us.
Well, he's trying to help the people in Africa not to get sick.
He loves them.
Yeah.
He likes them a lot, too, doesn't he?
Well, again, we know what Kissinger said about them back in the 70s when he brought his bill out. And about the dangers of the third world exploding in population.
Memorandum 200, we got to kill them, yeah.
That's right, and so they're going ahead with the whole agenda. Everything we're living through right now, as I say, was put on the table and planned 30, 40.
But that's an ace in the hole. The fact that the old-timers warned about all this, people thought, oh, that's a conspiracy, and now it's happening. Light bulbs are going off everywhere, and people are going, wait a minute. I was told exactly this was going to happen 30 years ago. I mean, I think that's our real ace in the hole, Alan, is that people have been there for so long exposing this.
That's right. And again, too, it's a matter of teaching the younger ones and understanding the younger ones have a hard time with holding a concept for any length of time because their attention span has been brought down to such a minimalistic level. So you have to find a way to get things across almost in bits and bytes.
And we got to do it quick. You're right, because they've reduced the language so far down. Young people are either awake or they can't speak.
Yes. Yes.
In fact, it's seen as trendy to not be able to talk now.
And they've been trained, you see, even from cartoons, 3-second bites from movements in a cartoon. Otherwise, the child loses interest now. They've been trained that that's the way it is.
And that's where most of the propaganda is in TV, cartoons, and fiction. That's where they're bombarding you. Sorry to the other callers from Canada. Cliff and Dustin, get to you next time. That's it for this segment of the transmission. Alan Watt, thank you so much, my friend.
It's been a pleasure, Alex.
All right, been a pleasure having you on. Coming up, forced fluoridation. Forced bone cancer.